Welcome to this Untitled Regional Council meeting of the 22nd of April. We, the councillors of the Untitled region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Muted.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Untitled Regional Council pays tribute to the love of land, love of people and love of culture. Now, this meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the internet. No other persons are permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by council to do so. Now, we don't have any ability for have your say. People have submitted their have your say online. Now, I will request that all mobile phones are switched off or switch to silent, please. So thank you. Now, please bear with us as we go through. It's going to be a slower meeting than normal, and let's hope that we can manage this reasonably well. There's no apologies or applications to leave the absence this meeting. Any disclosures of interest? Nope.
Oh, yes.
Sorry,
yes.
Deborah.
Yes. I have a sort of perceived or potential conflict of interest on the mall issue. However, I will be voting on that because my interest is process rather than the actual substance of the motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Any others, councillors? Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of the minutes, please, that were put out? Councillor Murat moved. Councillor Gray, second. Are there any corrections to the minutes or issues people want to raise? If not, can you please vote on the confirmation minutes, please? And Andrew, we don't have Stacey with a poll yet. Okay, if it's not, I'll just take it by consensus unless someone was to raise their hand against it.
What? There's no poll.
It's passed by consensus. So moving on, there's no mayoral minute. So moving to items.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
We're moving on to item, what is it, 8? Councillor Bailey, did you have a procedural motion you've indicated to me? Peter Bailey, you have to turn your...
Okay, my procedural motion is that I move that in light of COVID-19,
Unmuted.
the normal business of Untitled Regional Council only be discussed that the following items be deferred to an extraordinary meeting to be held on Wednesday, the 13th of May at 9 a.m. 8.1, the motion for recommittal of the rail trail. 9.1, Friends of the ABC. 9.2, Air Quality Working Group. 9.3, request for information. 9.5, Council's legal meeting. 9.7, Council's panel of solicitors. 9.8, Spark Helmore. 9.13, legal advice to the CEO. 19.1, questions. 19.2, 20.3, 20.4 and 20.5 be deferred to a special meeting to be held on Wednesday the 13th of May. Now, Hayley should have that.
Do I have a seconder for that?
Yes, I'll second
Councillor
it.
Gray. Now, just to be clear, Hayley, have you got that up on the screen so people can see the numbers that Councillor Bailey referred to?
If you can give us one moment, Simon, Haley's just going to type it and it'll be back on the screen momentarily.
And Andrew Brown, can we get a Stacey with a poll for this, please?
Yes, procedural motion 1's been activated. We'll just have it up on the screen in a moment. Councillor O'Connor appears to have a question.
Yes, I know, but this is so. Councillor O'Connor, is there, while we're waiting for Hayley to put that up, your question?
It can only be a question because you can't debate it.
Oh, thank you.
Councillor O'Connor.
I would like to also remove, I don't know if it's the item, sorry, the three items about ACAC. I would like them deferred as well. So I'm happy to add them. I can provide reasons if you want, but I'd prefer not to.
So can you, Councillor O'Connor, can you just read the numbers, please, so everyone's clear?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I've just had it written somewhere else.
Sorry, Simon, we can't have an amendment to a procedural motion. It can be a further procedural motion after the first procedural motion has been dealt with.
I'm fine with that. I just want to. I thought we might, if we're going to deal with procedural motions and deferrals, I'm happy to, excuse me, add mine in. But I'll do that as a second motion after Peters has dealt with. Thank you.
We could.
Peter, if you find out what they are and ask Peter.
Yeah. Peter, what I'd like to do is, Councillor Bailey, your procedural motion, if they concur with Councillor O'Connor's, you could incorporate them into your procedural motion. So just like Councillor O'Connor, just to clarify which points it is.
Sorry, I apologise. It's 14.5 for Information, Arts, Cultural and Heritage Advisory Committee, change of chair. That's in section 14, in items 14, and then in committee reports 17.4 and 17.5, which also relate to that same committee and a dispute that's ongoing. So I just
that's not the same as this procedural motion. So going back to the procedural motion, it's been moved and seconded.
No, I move a dissent from your ruling. It is simply a request for a deferral, which is the same as Councillor Bailey's request.
But Councillor Bailey, do you want to incorporate those into yours?
No.
So Councillor O'Connor will deal with this procedural motion. So can we go to the vote, please? You're voting for the procedure motion or against the procedure motion?
So there's no opportunity to debate this, Mr. Mayor.
The procedure motions are just put to the council for voting, Councillor Tyler.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Soviet Russia.
So has everyone voted?
No. I haven't got a poll here.
Yeah, there's comes up procedural motion 1. Okay, I'm going to give you 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Close the poll, please. So, Hayley, can you put that back up again, please? I presume the names there are the ones that in the vote.
Mr. Mayor, they're there as the for and against have been put into the minutes.
Therefore, I declare the procedure motion carried. So moving on to item 9.4. Do I have a move and a second for that, please? Councillor O'Connor, moved.
No,
No.
put your
Councillor
microphone on,
O'Connor.
Margaret.
I didn't know who was, I thought the mayor was controlling who can speak and who can't. Look, I apologise. I would like to move my procedural motion, as I indicated before.
Okay. You go ahead, Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I just wanted to move that items 14.5, 17.4 and 17.5 be deferred to that meeting, or, well, at this stage, that meeting, because they're ongoing matters that are the subject of investigation.
I'll second.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Robertson. So Councillor Margaret O'Connor moved to procedure motion. Councillor Robertson seconded. So Andrew Brown, are you ready? Is Stacey ready for a second poll?
Yes, Dr. Mayor, the poll's open.
Oh,
Okay. Councillor.
sorry, I can't.
So if everyone can vote on procedure motion number 2. So
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor O'Connor.
I can't get into my voting on my iPad. It's just won't open it. Oh, hang on. I've got it now, I think. Okay. Right, okay. Thanks, I voted now. Apologise.
Okay, I close the vote in 5 seconds. Stacey, can you close the vote, please? Okay, the motion is passed. The procedure motion is passed. Okay, moving on to item 9.4. So can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Robertson, move.
I'd like to move it, but delete A because it's no longer relevant.
So you moved it a minute and then a seconder. Is there a seconder?
O'Connor.
Councillor O'Connor. Councillor, you'd like, Brian, sorry. Councillor Robertson, you'd like to delete section A?
Yes, because it's no longer relevant. We're already doing it, so it's pointless.
And Councillor O'Connor, you concur with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Councillor Robinson?
Well, I think this is a very good idea to keep on lobbying the state and federal government, all levels of government, for advice and financial assistance, because this is a very big pandemic and it affects our entire community. And we need all the help we can get, as we've already seen from our budget, from the fact that we're suffering from bushfires and droughts on top of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I just hope you'll all support me in this. And even though we have been doing our best to actually lobby the federal government, as shown by some of the evidence of the text, even though they weren't actually attached to the agenda, I mean, I'm sure that we have been doing a great deal to urge all levels of government, but we really need to keep on doing this, because it's so important that we have all the assistance we can get to fight this major threat. So please vote for this motion for that reason. Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, Councillor, as I turned my mic off. Councillor Connor.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I would support this motion too, on the basis that we're not just an also-ran council. We've actually one of the most severely affected local government areas in the state now as a result of basically a triple whammy: drought, bushfires, and now this. Secondly, regional economies are a lot more fragile than urban ones, and with great respect to the Prime Minister and the National Cabinet that he's pulled together, I do think that a lot of the policy that's been made to assist business and people generally has been made on the run and really, really focused on the metro cities. So if you're a barista or someone like that, you're well protected. If you've been in business for 12 months, you're well protected. But if you're a startup, if you're someone who has their own business, if you're someone who is in a regional place where business conditions are different, you may not fit the one-size-fits-all solutions which the National Cabinet and the state government are putting forward. I mean, it's no secret to us that our current Premier, as caring as she can be at this stage, is of the firm belief that regions need to advocate for themselves. And we've got a lot of competition with the impacts that are occurring in the cities and other regions and coastal areas. So I think it's really important for us to support Councillor Robinson's motion, Part B, that we really step up our advocacy for our community and participate in every possible way in identifying and calling out the particular issues that our community has in relation to location and the fact that we're just in the middle of trying to recover from drought and bushfire as well. Thank you.
Anyone wants to speak against the motion? If not, I'll put that to the vote. So, Stacey, can you open a poll for item 9.14? Sorry, 9.4.
That's now open, Dr. Mayor.
Andrew, I've still got procedure motion 2 up. Oh, now it's right. Yep.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll close the vote in 5 seconds. So, Councillor Tyler?
In the absence of a mayoral minute from you, and obviously from looking at all the to and froing of emails, the council is doing a lot of advocacy. I'm wondering whether you would be able to, off the cuff, just tell us some of the things that you've been doing and what the staff have been doing to advocate council's issues in relation to the pandemic.
Thank you, Councillor Tyler. There is a report I was reading this morning where, and it's only a snapshot of my period of conversing with our local members, both our local members.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've read that yet.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
So it is only the text and emails. It does not include verbal conversations.
But I suspect you've also made submissions on various issues. I suspect a whole lot's been happening behind the scenes to advocate our position.
We can do a report to
Yep.
the extraordinary meeting.
And we can do, the CEO has just reported that, yes, we can do a report for the extraordinary meeting. Okay, everyone's voted, the poll is locked.
Can I ask a question too, Simon?
Councillor O'Brien?
Yes, considering there's it's a very much a movable feast at the moment, and there's announcements being made daily, and there's a lot of advocating going around from various councils, and they're changing quite rapidly. I'm wondering if there's a kind of I suppose a platform or an ability for councils to meet a little bit more regularly just on the COVID virus, and perhaps advocate on what we have seen other councils do, so that we ensure that we use the best of councillors' contacts and knowledge to put together to ensure that we can all contribute to this advocacy.
We'll look into that and put it in the report for the extraordinary
Yep,
meeting.
we'll look into that. Thank you, Councillor O'Brien, for the extraordinary meeting. So the poll's locked, so we can have the results, please, Andrew Brown.
They're up on the screen now.
Okay, so the motion's been passed. So moving on to item 9.6. I'm getting lost here. Have you got 9.6, Susan? Here it is. Sorry, councillors, this is a 9.6 is support for ZD community in relation to coronavirus. Mover, Councillor O'Connor, second. Is there a seconder?
Come on.
If not, Councillor O'Brien. So Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, as I think everybody knows, most of my notices of motion relating to the coronavirus were done some time ago now, and I note the management comment that's been repeated over each of these ones, which was, I think, would be this one 9.6, 9.9, 9 which was about self-isolating, 9.11, which is medical equipment, and 9.12. I would like to go to 9.9 to discuss that, but what I'd propose is that I'm happy to withdraw these on the basis that a comprehensive report from council on what it has been doing is provided, well, as soon as possible. I'm not saying I would like it long before the May meeting, although I realise we're now on the 22nd, but as soon as possible. I think it's really important that councillors and all councillors know and can talk with the community, because don't worry, they're still communicating with us at a frantic rate, so that we can tell them what council is actually doing, because at the moment, really, we can't in these matters. We don't know, and it's great that we've got this standard form response, which ends with council continues to support and assist SSI and the minister in all measures and where requested. But what does that comprise? What does that response comprise? And I think it's very great to note that the CEO has already offered to do a report. I would like reports to cover the subjects, the details of these items. But so I'm happy to withdraw if there's an agreement there that there be a report, and I'm happy for it just to be a matter arising from these items. 9.6 9.11 and 9.12. I would like to just make a short comment about 9.9, but I'm happy to withdraw that after I've spoken to it. Just that it be substituted with a report from staff. Thank you.
Councillor O'Brien, did you concur with Councillor O'Connor's request to withdraw those notice of motion?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, if there's consensus with that, we'll defer those motions. Okay, so 9.6, so we're moving to 9.9, self-isolation strategy.
She's withdrawn those.
Yes.
She's withdrawn, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, Councillor O'Connor, you withdrew 9.6 and 9.11, wasn't it? Or did you include 9.9?
I accepted 9.8. I accepted 9.9. So I do want to talk to 9.9 and then withdraw it on the same basis. But I do want it called.
Yeah. So moving on to 9.9, the self-isolation strategy. You move it, Councillor O'Connor?
I do.
A seconder? Councillor O'Brien. So Councillor O'Connor?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Look, what I intended in relation to this is that I believe that when I wrote this, I anticipated that it would be very tough on our community members to be locking down for anything between 2 months and 12 months. So what I was anticipating is that council could work with community services, with the Community Wellbeing Committee, and other committees to try and devise some ways in which we could encourage the community to, have exercise, maybe operate a sort of limited number of people by application, be able to socially distance in a park and do some sort of socially distanced calisthenics, or just things that bring people together in a socially distanced way and might break down the isolation and the lack of ability to basically leave home, but in a safe way. And look, I really want to put that idea forward, but I'm pretty happy. I note the response from management, and I really do respect that we're not the first line combat agency, but there are many councils doing so many things for their community that we don't seem to be even discussing. So I'd really like this matter to be, I'm happy to defer it to the extraordinary meeting, but in the meantime, I would like to add to this some report on what could be done to break down social isolation that people are suffering, and living with family members they haven't lived with for a long time, family members they may not get on with. It's not all happy families down there in the lockdown, and I think if we can turn our mind to ways, innovative ways in which we can assist this aspect, I'd be very grateful and like to see it in a report. So on that basis, I'm happy to withdraw this motion. Over. Sorry.
Point 1.2 or 1.1, sorry. No, sorry, you've withdrawn that 9.12. So could I have a mover for that, please? That's Councillor O'Connor's, I believe. Do you move, Councillor O'Connor?
With respect to Mr. Mayor, that was the one I was happy to withdraw. So long as it becomes a topic within the report that's being prepared.
Yep. Yep. So moving on to 9.14, that's Councillor Robinson. You move, Councillor Robinson. Councillor Robinson, are you moving?
I'll move, yep.
And there's a seconder? Councillor O'Connor. So Councillor Robinson? Councillor Robinson.
Sorry, you muted me, so I couldn't speak. And I was just puzzled as to why you wanted me muting when you'd asked me to speak. However, yeah, again, it's just the same deal that we really do need to lobby additional financial assistance to support local economies during these difficult times and provide a much needed stimulus for recovery, because we will get out of this. And when we get out of this, we will need to stimulate our economy to make things better. So we need to be ready for that, and we need to lobby for all the projects that we can do to recover from this terrible problem. And that's all I really need to say. I believe it is important that we look for all the opportunities we can get to recover from this and from the drought and the bushfires, and make sure that we attract the business and all the other things we'll need to our region when we are ready to come out of this, which I hope will be sooner rather than later. There are things that are looking up, like the vaccine trial that's happening in a couple of weeks' time, and we have to look to the future and how we're going to recover from this. This is a dark time, but we will recover, and we have to make sure we are ready when we recover to stimulate our economy and do the best for our region when that happens. Thank you.
So, Councillor O'Connor.
Nothing further. I agree with Councillor Robinson, and I address the matter in relation to the previous motion that I seconded.
So is there a person wishes to speak against? So Councillor O'Brien, you wish to speak against?
Just do it by consensus. There's nobody speaking.
Am I able to speak
So-
for it, Simon? Mr.
Well, there's
Mayor?
no need to if there's no one wishes to speak
Okay.
against. I'll take
I
it by
don't know.
consensus.
I just need to ask a
Okay.
question, actually, if you can hear me.
Yes, Councillor Widders.
Just in relation to the mover, just agree to vote with it or anything. Does the mover anticipate that council will not continue to lobby for funding at a certain point, and that's why this motion needs to be put in? Or is it just a motion to say that she would like council to continue to do what they're already doing?
Yeah, I think it's much more to affirm our intention to do this because it's so important, and let the community know that we are doing it and we will continue to do it. So it's really just an affirmation of our intentions more than anything else. Not necessarily that I would be thinking that we wouldn't do it if we didn't have that motion.
Okay, I'll put this to the vote. There's been no speaker against. Those in favour, if you can put your vote online, vote on the phone or wherever you're doing it, please. So Andrew Brown, is this? You've still got it locked on item 9.4 in the poll.
Dr. Mayor, we've already had 10 votes, 11 now, so everyone's voted.
Yep, it just came up on mine then. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll close the vote in 5 seconds. Okay, close the vote.
Dr. Mayor, whilst Stacey and Hayley are doing that, can we just have clarification for the staff here in this room about motion 9.10? What happened in relation to 9.10?
My apologies. We have not done that one, so we'll go back to that after this one.
Thank you.
Hmm? Yep, so that motion's been passed. So moving back to item 9.10, please. Is financial support for business sector. Councillor O'Connor moves. Do I have a seconder? Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Connor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this motion requested that the governing body be formed as a committee of whole to deal with the business chamber and ensure that we're sort of on board and that our ideas are included. Now, I note the management comment that this is now being done through the new Regional Growth and Activation Committee, but I mean the effect of this, with great respect, is to exclude all the elected members of this governing body who are not members of that new that new committee. It's a mouthful. Regional Growth, Place and Activation Committee. I think this is not a good look. We've got our Prime Minister has called together a national cabinet to deal with the pandemic, and I think that if we should follow his lead and create a committee of whole to be in the loop in relation to the response to the pandemic in our LGA. I think we need to note that we are the first council after a forced merger, and that we're double the size, but we also are a much more diverse community now, with a lot to respond to. So I just see why the response is to exclude 5 councillors. Well, it seems to be a number of councillors. I won't say it's 5, but by limiting the participation to members of that particular new committee. So I press this motion on that basis that a committee of whole be formed and on an emergency basis, so that the entire governing body is included, and that would support, the general principles that we're all required to follow under the Local Government Act and the Model Code of Conduct for inclusion and inclusiveness. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
So, Councillor O'Brien.
Yes, I too am watching my Labor colleagues all over New South Wales, particularly on 50 councils, being very deeply involved in the decision making, the policy making regarding the responses to the coronavirus. Putting it through the business committee is one thing, but the whole idea of stimulating economy is fairly a broad thing. It includes protecting the employees of this council, ensuring that they are part of the policies that are being proposed by or asked to be implemented across councils. It includes a whole range of policies that are directed at many parts of the community. I think narrowing that kind of perspective to a small group of people and people who are particularly involved in business, because stimulating the economy means much more than business, means we're probably getting a narrow view of what's available. I'm looking at what other councils are doing, even right in front of me this morning, asking the government to increase financial assistance grants to 1% to help councils maintain essential services, to give immediate financial assistance to council employees, to provide stimulus funding for council for projects that will help sustain council operations that could lead to bringing forward existing funding programs or new projects. Many things that other councils are doing, many things that are opportunities that are taken up. I think the narrower you go with who's making decisions, not only is it kind of not that transparent and democratic, it's sort of limiting the capacity of the council to respond in a way that's much broader than other councils are doing. So I ask for that all councils can be much more involved in this. And yeah, so I agree with Councillor O'Connor.
Okay, speaker against the motion? Councillor Witters?
Yeah, I'm going to speak against it. I noticed that both the mover and seconder mentioned what's going on in other places and in this national. I note that with the National Cabinet that the Prime Minister's put together. Not every member of Parliament or every minister from state and federal is involved in that. It's a select group of people to get that going. Normally, if this was in a different situation, the whole council wouldn't need to meet with the business chambers to stimulate or come up with ideas. That's what those committees are for, regional growth committees and all that sort of other ones. I think we need to allow our members, our representatives who represent us on that committee to go and be involved in that and then come back and report to all of us. With trying to get this meeting together took a lot of effort, then trying to add on extra people that are involved within the business chamber as well could make a long delay of what we're trying to do. It helps with stimulating the economy. But I note the council is already involved with this. I think it's one of those motions that we're already doing it. Let's allow it to happen. Let's get things working quickly. Too many cooks spoil the broth sort of thing, and let that committee come back to all of the councillors with either in a workshop or with a report to say what the plans are, and then if there's any questions from councillors, then they can redirect it back to the committee afterwards.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Councillor Witters, your voice did drop out there a bit, so maybe if you come a little bit closer to the mic if you wish to speak, please. A speaker for the motion, Councillor O'Brien.
I wanted to ask a question through the chair to Councillor Witters, if that's okay.
Sorry.
I would like to know why he's arguing for councillors not to be involved.
Councillor O'Brien, you've already had your say. Is there a person wish to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor O'Connor, you're right to reply.
Thank you. Look, just in response to Councillor O'Brien's comment, I appreciate Councillor Witters' concern, but I mean, this is an absolute crisis for our community. At every level, government is saying that businesses will go to the wall, and we can't afford in Armidale region for any business to go to the wall. We can't afford it because we don't have, a stable. We have a delicate economy anyway, not to mention a lot of needy people and people that are going to be really badly affected so to argue on the analogy that not every single parliamentarian is just, with great respect, I think it's just drawing the bow too far or whatever. I mean, there's 11 of us. We're equally elected to represent our community. Our community is twice the physical size that it used to be, and it's much more complicated now than it was before the merger. Let us all have a say, Brad. Let us all be around the table. That's all I'm asking, that all councillors be around the table. And it is just absolutely not inclusive to have some discussing this and some excluded from, pushed outside the tent. That's effectively what has been happening. And it's frustrating for those who've got ideas that they only find out after the fact of these discussions. It's just not fair. So I really urge my fellow councillors, my colleagues to support us all being equally involved in dealing with this particular pandemic and what we can do to help our community, that we should have an equal voice in this. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I'll now ask Stacey to put the item up for voting, item 9.10. And if everyone can vote, please. Closing the vote in 5 seconds. If you can close the vote, please, Stacey. Okay, the results are in and the motion's lost. Moving on to item 11.1. Now, before we ask for a move in a second, I might just get the CEO to provide some comments, please. You're on to.
Councillors, this is a motion that was held over from the last meeting, which was held back in February. It simply is a clean-up item in that back in 2017, the decision was made to transfer the old library from the general fund to the water fund for a various price and ensure that the funding or the cash made available was used for the upgrade of the accommodation in the civic centre. That hasn't happened and because the need wasn't deemed required as the time went on. The reason for wanting rescission of the motion was firstly, obviously, we didn't, there was no upgrade to the accommodation in the civic centre, but more importantly, from an audit point of view, we just want to ensure that the transfer of the old building from the general fund to the water fund doesn't remain on the books, because we have been advised that the legality of that is doubtful.
Thank you, CEO. Look, if this item does not require any discussion, I'd like to pass it by consensus. So is there any discussion? If not, it's passed by consensus. Oh, Councillor Connor?
I'm sorry, but can I speak?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but there are just more questions about this. I mean, I don't. Well, for one thing, if there's legal advice that it's dodgy, why can't we see it and know about it? I would like to.
Councillor Connor, do you wish to debate this? If so, we'll put it up. We'll get a move and second it.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Gray, a seconder. Councillor Martin. So Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. The reason for moving this motion is very much similar to, as explained in the notes and in the report, that it does appear to be something that has not progressed. And also the nature of whether it is legally or lawful or not is needs to be considered, and also that it just needs to be cleaned up. If it's not going to be done and it's not going to be used in such a way, then we need to clean it up to protect council.
Councillor Martin.
Yeah, I don't have any further comment.
Do we have a speaker against the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak, but I'll probably vote for it. But if you allow me, as I was the administrator at the time of the decision.
Okay, Councillor Tiley.
Thank you very much. My decision was based upon a recommendation from the then CEO and the senior management team, which coincidentally included Mr. Piakowski. And I was assured at the time that it was legal, and the purpose was to have the Water and Sewage Fund pay for the old library and transfer water and sewage staff there to that building because of the really overcrowded state in the main administration building. Now, I acknowledge that management doesn't want to proceed with this, and I'm okay supporting that. I note that there's some 37 positions in the structure that aren't filled. Maybe that's part of the reason for the lack of need for the accommodation. But back in 2017, describing the existing accommodation in the main building as a rabbit warren wasn't unfair. So that was what was behind it all, but I'm not going to impede, as Councillor Gray said, we probably need to move on. If it's not needed, well, let's rescind the motion. Thank you.
Right, Councillor O'Connor, did you want to speak against the motion? If not, Stacey, can you put the poll up, please? Councillor O'Brien, you used to speak against it.
I thought Councillor O'Connor said she wanted to speak. I might be wrong, but am I wrong?
I'm looking at her, but she's got no indication. So, Councillor O'Connor, you used to speak against?
Yes, the only thing I want to speak, the only matter that concerns me about this is that I just really think that I would like to know the background to this. If this building is going to be, I understand this building is under contemplation for some other purpose that has not come before the governing body, and that concerns me. And if there's an allegation that this is unlawful and there's a legal advice in existence, I think we ought to be allowed to see it. That's all.
Okay, that's not really speaking against it. So I don't think there's a right to reply. So I'll put that to the vote. So if Stacey can put the poll up, please.
Can I ask a question as well?
So, Councillor Robinson, I can't see your arm, Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I took it down because you've been now.
Any councillor wishes to get attention, they've got to put their hand close to their face, not well away. I can't see it if you're well away. Thank you, Councillor Robinson.
No, I just wanted to ask a question, and that's really, perhaps we can have more information about the purpose of what council has plans for that building. Because I think that's also important to know while we're discussing this issue.
We have done a presentation about this at a workshop, but we are happy to include it in the next agenda.
Councillor Robinson, I remember this being presented at a workshop ages ago, but in light of that, the CEO is quite willing to bring it to another workshop to explain. So,
thank you.
My apologies, I haven't voted. So, Stacey, have we got the poll up for voting, please?
Should be visible now, Dr. Mayor.
It's visible now. So, if everyone can vote.
When you close this meeting, you need to close the other meeting.
While we're voting, I just want to ask a quick question. Who's attendee 1 on the attendees? I see everyone else's name, but I don't know who attendee 1 is. Can just answer that when you get the thank you.
So, can you, Stacey, can we close the vote, please? And do we know who number 1 is?
It could be any staff member, it could be me.
You're not calling this phone. It's, if you look at the
It could be Harry. Yeah. Carried.
Okay, thank you, councillors. We'll declare that carried. Moving on to item 11.2, and as I said before, because of the way in which you're conducting this meeting and to expedite matters, if the item doesn't require discussion, I would like to pass it in by consensus. So 11.2, which is the rates path protection for new councils. does anyone wishes to raise this as a debate? Councillor Robertson does. So, who moves this motion then, Councillor? Do you move it, Councillor Robertson?
No, I just want
Councillor Gray moves. Seconder? A seconder, though. Councillor Martin. So, Councillor Gray?
I've got no comment, but I'll reserve a right of reply if need be.
So, Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I think it's all fairly self-explanatory. I've got no comment either.
Speaker against?
Oh, I want to
So, Councillor
speak
Robertson?
about it. And you can consider it either against or for, but my understanding is that, that our objective, especially in this pandemic, is to lessen the burden of councils' ratepayers. And rates harmonisation benefits some people, but obviously has problems and causes hardship for other ones. And under these circumstances, I would really like to know who benefits and who loses, and whether there are any other possible solutions, like, say, a partial harmonisation. I think just shoving this in front of us with no estimate of who benefits and who loses and whether this is sensible or not is unfortunate. And I would really have liked to see a lot more information before passing this motion. So that's my point. There are winners and there are losers. And my guess is there might be more losers than winners out of this motion. And until we really look at the figures and look at the data, we will not know this. We're just voting for a pig in the poke, and I'm not sure I think that's acceptable. I would like information before to make an informed decision, and I really don't have that at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. I guess I think Councillor Bailey a minute, but one of the big issues we're facing as we're dealing with this virus is that we cannot have face-to-face community consultation, and that is one of the big things we need to do because people will be impacted by it. Hence, that is one of the reasons that we've requesting council to consider this to be basically go back to doing the rate harmonisation starting next year. So, Councillor Bailey, you got to turn your micro on, Councillor Bailey.
Okay, that was my point. We're really only asking for an extension, so we don't really need to know any more information. We're asking for an extension, and I think that's fair and reasonable, and will give us more time and more ability for the staff to provide information to us so we can make an informed decision.
Thank you. Councillor, is there a speaker against? So, Councillor Gray, your right of reply.
I have no further comment. Councillor Bailey pretty much summed up what I wanted to say, so we'll leave it at that.
Okay, Stacey, can we have the poll up for this item, please?
Mr. Mayor, just to answer a question from earlier in relation to caller one, that's Mark P. I've amended the name on the system to show that that's Mark.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Tom, I just curious. I could have been Harry Bloggs. I didn't know.
The vote, call for the vote.
Yes. Okay. Call the vote ended. What is next?
11.2. If we go 11. You could,
Okay. The motion's carried. Now, item 11.3 is just for information. I would like, councillors, with your permission, that we, all the for information ones, we treat in globo. So that is 11.3, 14.1, right through to 14.10, but we've deferred 14.5. Oh, 14.7 is decision, but all of the information ones. And in the committee reports, the 17.2, 17.3, 17.6 and 17.7. So unless there's someone who wants to pull one of those out, Councillor O'Brien?
The hardship policy, is that 11.3?
Yeah, it's 11.3.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others, Councillor O'Connor?
I would like to ask a question about 11.3. And have we already...
Sorry, Councillor O'Connor, we don't have to because Councillor O'Brien would like to have it debated, so...
Oh, okay, no worries. So that traffic committee, has that one already been deferred or where is that? In the
No. Has it been deferred, Susan?
That's for decision.
radio. Okay,
It's
so
the decision one. We're only dealing with the information ones. Thank you, Councillor Burley. Councillor Withers, you raised.
Actually, in relation to I would like to make a comment so that it's open to the public to see. And so if I have to open it up for debate, I will. But it's the monthly financial report, 14.4. I would like that to be not disappear in this global motion.
I agree.
Okay, so 11.3 and 14.4. Councillor Withers, you're raising your hand. Okay, can I have a mover or a seconder that we have all of those items, not 11.3 and not 14.4, treated in globo, please? Councillor Gray and Councillor Murat. Can we have Stacey, can we put that to the poll, please?
Yeah, Dr. Mayor, that's being opened up now. Can we just clarify that's a procedural motion to deal with those matters in globo?
Yes, it was.
Yep, thank you. And Dr. Mayor, just can we have very clearly which items are to be dealt with in globo, because there was a bit of confusion here.
Okay, it's a 14.1, 14.2, 14.3, 14.5 has been deferred, so 14.6, 14.8, 14.9 and 14.10. Then we go to 17.2, 17.3, 17.6, 17.7. So close the poll, please. Now, it was not 17.1 is for decision, so that was not there. It was 17.2.
Yeah, that's what she's got.
I looked at 17. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but at the end you got 17. You got 17.1 at the end. Haley, you've got 17.10. Oh, 10.
Sorry, Dr. Mayor, can we just get you to read them out one more time? We just want to make sure we've got them exactly right.
14.1, 14.2, 14.3, 14.4, 14.6, sorry, 14.5, 14.6, 14.8, 14.9, 14.10, and then it's
14.5 has been deferred.
oh, sorry, yes, 14.5 has been deferred. 17.2, 17.3, 17.6, 7. Oh, there's some late ones too.
Yeah, that's right now.
Okay. The results, please.
For information. And 17.9.
Oh, should we we should put them in as well?
Too late.
Too late.
So, Dr. Mayor, just to clarify why Councillor Robinson isn't against, there was no vote recorded. So, in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice, we had to record that as an against.
Yep, thank you. So that's moving on to 11.3. So can I have a move and a second? Move and a second for that, please, Councillor Gray. Is there a seconder? Councillor Withers. Councillor Gray?
No real comment in specifically, but other than to say that this is a positive step in supporting our community during this pandemic.
Councillor Withers. Councillor Withers, you've got to turn your mic on.
Can you hear me better now? Yes, you can.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'll just support what Councillor Gray said.
Is there a speaker against? Councillor O'Brien?
I'm a little bit, I suppose, baffled about what happened here. There was an email sent to all councillors to ask us if we had any objection or if we wanted any changes or any comments on this policy. It was sort of done on the fly, and I understand why. But my suggestion to the staff, to the CEO in particular, was that we're having a community wellbeing committee meeting in a few days, and that perhaps it would be a better opportunity rather than race it through, that we take it through that committee. There were already 4 councillors on it for a start. And I know that's sort of done through the business committee, various policies. That was agreed, so we put it through our committee, made some changes after much discussion with the committee and community members and the other 4 councillors. That was passed unanimously, that this adjusted hardship policy would be put through council. So I'm not sure what the status of that is and why this one, which hasn't been passed by any council, just be noted. I mean, there's a procedure and a process for doing this, and councillors are basically, our job is policy, and I don't think we've gone through the right procedure in just noting this policy. It hasn't actually been discussed or passed or any motions passed on this. We were asked to put it through the committee, and that's what we have, and I don't see our adjusted one here. I might be mistaken, maybe that's the one you've put up. So if I could have some clarity there, that would be good. I don't see the changes we've made, but I might be mistaken. If anyone could assist me on that. Thank you.
I believe most of that committee's comments have been incorporated, but I just asked the CEO for clarification.
Councillors, yes, we took the feedback and input from the Community Wellbeing Committee. We reviewed the policy that was sent out to all councillors in the light of that input and have incorporated the suggestions from the committee. The wording might be slightly different, but certainly the input has been incorporated. 6 councillors came back to me from my first email and said they had no difficulty with what was proposed, and therefore we took the 2 pieces of work and integrated them, and that's what we have before us now.
Mr. Mayor, a question, please.
Yes, Councillor Tyler.
To the CEO, how did you merge the fact that the policy that staff promoted was for the period to 30th of June, and the Wellbeing Committee wanted an extension of Council's existing hardship policy to continue until at least the 31st of December? Thank you.
CEO.
Councillors, that was one of the irreconcilable pieces. Mostly the input from the Wellbeing Committee and suggestions was on all fours. The time frame was the only major difference. What's been changed here is that this hardship policy will be reconsidered at the time the Council considers its budget for 2021.
Thank you. And a follow-up question, if you may, Mr. Mayor. Part 4 of the policy adopted unanimously by the committee provided that the committee would then provide regular input and information on how the virus is impacting on the vulnerable in the community, and also suggest amendments and additions to this policy from time to time. Is that included in your document, Madam CEO?
No, that's not, but we would be, if the Wellbeing Committee reports regularly and meets regularly and reports to Council, and that input on the impact of the virus on the community will be considered by Council for the minutes, and if there are necessary changes to the hardship policy as a result of that, that will come before Council.
Could I ask a further question? Could I ask a further question?
Brian?
Me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I wanted
Yes.
to know if the change regarding interest rate accrual on rate deferrals was included in the final. I don't believe it has, but maybe that can be clarified. If and why not the interest rate accrual changes were not included.
CEO.
I can't hear.
Dr. Mayor, that's something I can't quite recall. I believe our CFO, Kelly Stidworthy, is on the line with us. Perhaps, Kelly, you would answer that. We'll take it on note.
If you can give us one moment, we'll ask the CFO to come into the chamber. We won't be one sec.
It's okay, Andrew. I think we'll take that question on notice. Councillor O'Brien, if we can come back to you on that one.
Can I just say,
Okay.
I find it's a little bit difficult for me to accept the noting of this without some of those outstanding issues still unanswered. And also the process was a little bit dodgy. I mean, if we ask, can we take it to the community welfare being, and then it's kind of what the staff decide in terms of half of this and half of that. We didn't actually have a proper council process for this. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, about noting this until we get some of those answers and we're ensured about how this process went about.
So, Councillor O'Connor. Yeah, Councillor Tylee, you can be next. Councillor Connor?
Yeah, I have a question and a suggestion for a matter arising. What is concerning me is just the process, or it's actually it's the substantive content of the document as well as the process. And I'd like a written answer to this question, which is on what basis would the executive leadership team make policy and then require council to note that policy? I think that's the reverse of the normal procedure, which would be that the governing body would make the policy, and that would be a matter of notice to the administration. And I press that question answered in writing. Thanks.
So let's get back to the debate. There's been a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gray moved, Councillor Witters seconded.
Minor amendment, Mr. Mayor, if I may. A minor amendment.
You've had a
I just want to make. I want to suggest a minor amendment to Councillor Gray. It'd be stronger, and we'd show more leadership, I think, if we put in formally endorse rather than just note. If you're agreeable, I think that'd be great.
So the wording would be that council formally
endorse
the interim hardship policy.
Only the council can determine policy, and this is just. And I don't want to. I mean, it's not the policy that I prefer, but we're in the middle of a hell of a pandemic, and we want to be acting. So, Councillor Gray, if you put in those words, it'd make it stronger in my view.
So, Councillor Gray and Councillor Witters, are you happy with that modification?
Yes.
Councillor Witters? Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tylee. Is there a speaker against? Councillor O'Connor, you want to? We have no more questions, Councillor O'Connor. We're going to debate.
All right. Well, I'm very concerned that policy. Well, I'll just speak against this if you wish, but I'm only speaking against the process here. As Councillor Tylee has said, you know, we've got to do something, and this is better than nothing. But I note that it is balancing our budget with the welfare of our community, and that is an approach which has been specifically rejected at federal and state level, where they've pulled out all stops to actually look at health protection and other matters to do with the welfare of the community over and above the balancing the books or balancing the budget. I'm concerned about that, and I'm going to vote for this. Of course I am, because you know, we need something, but I just want to make it very clear that I don't accept that council, a governing body, should ever note the making of a policy by some third party. We make the policy. So I'm very concerned about this process, and I do press the question that you dismissed previously, Mr. Mayor. I do press that question that we get a response to that in writing. Thank you.
So, Councillor O'Brien, did you speak for? Okay, if there's no one wishes to speak for the motion, Councillor Robinson, do you speak for it?
No, I just want to make a suggestion that we haven't had the information on the interest rates, and that the subject of we could add an extra or a slight amendment that the subject of interest rates should be deferred to the follow-up meeting on the 13th of May. If I can get a seconder for that amendment, or if the move-in seconder, I'm quite happy with it.
So, Councillor Gray, you're not happy with any amendment in that way?
No, let's just move on.
Councillor Witters? Right. So, Councillor Connor, you've already spoken, so let's move on. Is there a speaker?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
against?
I am seconding Councillor Robinson's amendment.
Okay, I didn't realise that she wanted to make an amendment. So, Councillor Robinson amendment, let's make sure we get it clear. So can you say the amendment again, please, Councillor Robinson?
That the issue of interest rates be discussed at the follow-up meeting and amendments made if necessary. The follow-up meeting being, of course, the meeting in May.
Dr.
Okay.
Mayor, could we just clarify what is meant by the follow-up meeting for the minutes, please?
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say the meeting in May, the extraordinary meeting in May.
Yep. Okay. Are you happy with that, Councillor Robinson?
I'm happy with that.
Now, Councillor Robin, you to speak for it, or you've already spoken?
Well, I think it is necessary, if we haven't got all the details, that we are acquainted with those details before we finalise the policy. I'm perfectly happy to vote for the current policy, but if there are issues in relation to interest rates that we don't yet know about, then we should know about them before we finalise it. And interest rates, obviously, on debts is a fairly minor issue, but it is something that we should be fully cognizant of. And therefore, if we don't know that now, we should leave it to the May meeting, where we can just change as necessary. And I think that is an important thing to do.
So, Councillor Connor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I do think it's important that we pay attention to this. Interest rates are important to a lot of people because it's a great cause of stress, even if they're being given immediate payment. They're actually, the fact that they're not paying a debt and accruing interest, and council's interest rates are quite high compared to bank interest rates at the moment, is added stress for these people. I think it's extremely important, and I note that it's a matter that, you know, other jurisdictions is looked at head on. So I support Councillor Robinson's view that slugging interest in circumstances like this on people who are just struggling to keep their mental health and somehow or other come out of this, you know, functioning and not bankrupt, or this being the coronavirus. I think it's just really important that we are mindful of that and that we are seen to be caring and mindful of that. That's another important aspect of our presentation and our attitude to the community that we serve. Thank you.
A speaker against the amendment? If not, I'll put the amendment to the vote. So, Stacey, can you set up the poll, please?
Yeah, Dr. Mayor, as this wasn't one that was pre-prepared, Stacey has used procedural motion number 4, which was one of the pre-formed poll questions. So councillors should be able to vote on the amendment as procedural motion number 4 on their apps or on the polling system.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Brown. Okay, I'll close the vote in 5 seconds. Okay, Stacey, will you close the vote, please? So to councillors, the result, the amendment's lost. So I'll put the original motion. So Councillor Gray, you have a right to reply.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Look, I think that in light of the majority of councillors in support of this motion, of this policy, that we move forward as quickly as possible. There is one comment that I would like to make, and that is in relation to a comment that Councillor O'Brien said, that this was done in a dodgy fashion. Take exception to that, and note that it is not a good way to represent and speak about council. It's derogatory, and that it should be noted that there's nothing whatsoever being dodgy in this process.
Okay, thank you. So Stacey, if we can put the vote, please.
Oh, can I defend myself?
Yes.
Nope.
No, I move.
Put the vote.
Councillors, I put in the vote. So if Stacey could put it up, please. And it's up there.
Mr. Mayor, I request that you note my dissent from your ruling. Councillor O'Brien has just been accused of effectively making a derogatory comment. She should at least be allowed.
Councillor O'Connor, your dissent has been noted. So,
Great respect, Mr. Mayor. It is not a question of noting my dissent. I move a motion of dissent to your ruling to ignore Councillor. If you want to mute me, Mr. Mayor, that's fine. But I think the whole community can see what's going on very clearly on this format. I have moved a motion of dissent to the ruling, and that needs to be dealt with.
I've considered your motion for dissent.
Mr. Mayor, you have to put it to the governing body. Your consideration is insufficient.
We are on a vote for this one, Councillor O'Connor. We'll finish that. Thank you.
Excuse me, Councillor Gray's comment requires immediate response. She's made an allegation that Councillor O'Brien has made a derogatory comment. Councillor O'Brien has asked to be able to defend herself or perhaps withdraw that word and replace it with another one. You've ignored Councillor Robinson's request. I have now moved a motion of dissent from your ruling to ignore Councillor O'Brien. I move, and I'm seeking a seconder, for my motion of dissent.
I'll second it.
So, Connor, as I said before, we're in the middle of a vote. You can have the procedure motion next.
With great respect, Mr. Mayor,
So,
we
Stacey,
proceed to the vote.
if we can get the vote up, please, Stacey.
Mr. Mayor, I move another motion of dissent from your ruling, and that motion is that we need to deal with this motion of mine.
Dr. Mayor, nine councillors have currently voted on on matter 11.3.
So I'm going to close the vote.
Dr. Mayor, just again to clarify, the two against votes are due to a no vote being recorded in the system.
Well, I couldn't vote because it was still going on. What's going on? Margaret put up a motion and Simon's ignored it. What's the caper?
The motion was put to a vote, and now if she wants to do something, she can do a procedural motion.
With great respect, Brad, that's not how.
Thanks for your words of wisdom, mate. That's very good. Thank you.
So, Councillor, the vote, the results are in.
You deal with the result while it's there on the table. Then you go to the vote.
So, Councillor Connor, are you having a procedure motion?
Yep.
All right, thanks.
So, is there a seconder?
Yep. No, it doesn't change the ruling.
If there's no seconder,
O'Connor, please clarify what the motion will say.
so Councillor Bryan, you're seconding?
Dr. Mayor, could we have a clarification exactly of what the procedural motion will be for Hayley?
Councillor O'Connor?
Hang on. Can you hear me? Yeah, the procedural motion is that that this council dissent from the mayor's ruling of refusing to allow Councillor O'Brien to respond to the adverse comment made about her by Councillor Gray.
It doesn't change your ruling.
No.
It does. The ruling was that he wouldn't allow her to speak.
So, Councillor O'Connor, that's your procedure motion?
Yeah, I think what we need to put in there is that Councillor O'Connor. No, it's not that I dissent. That this this meeting dissents from the ruling that by the chair that Councillor O'Brien not be allowed to respond to the adverse comment about her by Councillor Gray.
Mute yourself.
Simon, if you want to set a precedence and you want this for everyone to have their opinion about each other, which Diane Gray had about Deborah, well, you're opening up a can of worms, mate. You've got to listen. You've got to find out and listen to what Deborah's saying, mate.
Councillor Ledley, are you speaking for? This is a procedure motion, so there's no debate. So it's been moved and seconded. And Councillor O'Connor, is that what you want? If so, Stacey, can we put up a poll, please?
Procedural motion 5 has been made available for councillors to vote on.
So closing the poll in 5 seconds. Close the poll, please, Stacey. I think they got the number. Motion's carried. Okay, we're moving on to 12.1.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Just had a question in regard to Just a question in regards to now that that motion has been carried, does that then allow for every other motion that is still to come, that if the mover of the motion in their right of reply comments on something that was said either in the for or against, that whoever commented in the for and against, if they do not like what the mover of the motion has said in their right of reply, they may have right of reply in regards to what was said in the right of reply. Is that what that motion now indicates?
Every motion is taken separately.
Every motion is going to be taken separately, Councillor Witters. This case is that the Councillor O'Brien did make a statement and Councillor Gray took offence at that statement.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment, please?
12.1. So, Councillor Murat.
Mr. Mayor, you can't count. I would rather you go back to the previous motion, please, and count the fors and against. I believe there was 6 fors and 5 againsts.
And that's right, Councillor. That's what I'm saying, Councillor Murat. You happy with that, Councillor Murat? It is a 6-5.
So I'm allowed my right of reply.
Going on to 12.1.
No,
I'm allowed my right of reply.
no, you're not. You just dissent from the rule there.
This has been a procedural motion, Councillor O'Brien. That is it. And the council has voted. So 12.1, which is replacement of lights.
That Councillor O'Brien is not allowed to comment or defend herself or offered an opportunity to withdraw the comment that Councillor Gray objected to. I mean, that might be all that Councillor O'Brien wants to do.
12.1, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Martin, Councillor Gray. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, there's no comment.
Councillor Gray.
I think the report is self-explanatory.
So, someone wish to speak against the motion? Otherwise, consensus. Because got a mover and seconder, let's vote. If Stacey could put up the poll, please.
Should be visible now, Dr. Mayor.
No, Andrew, it's not up yet. Not in mine. Yes, it is. So, closing the votes in 5 seconds.
Councillor Robertson,
Close.
your attention. Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Robertson. Councillor Robertson.
I wanted to have a quick speech for it, but I wasn't allowed because the organizer turned off my webcam at that very minute. So will you allow me to say a couple of words on that?
Well, the vote's already been taken, Councillor Robertson. I've called the vote, so no. We'll move on. Yep, unanimous vote. Thank you. 12.2 has been withdrawn. 12.3. Again, councillors, if there is no one that wants to debate this, I'd like to pass it by consensus. Is there someone who wants to debate this? No. Okay, pass by consensus. 12.4, which is the engagement of contractors. Again, I'd like to pass by consensus unless someone wishes to debate. Okay, it is passed. 14.1 has been dealt with. Moving on to, which is the other one, Susan, that we have to debate?
14.10, sorry.
14.3, wasn't it?
So it's 14.3 she wants.
So,
Sorry, 14.4 she wants.
yeah, 14.3 has been treated. Moving on to 14.4.
Just go to 14.7
So someone-
where we should be.
Now it's 14.4 has been, someone request that to be discussed.
Apologise.
So can I have a move and a second, please? Councillor Gray? Seconder? Councillor Witters. Councillor Gray?
I just want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this report, but also how concerning the financial situation is. I think it needs to be stated very clearly that it's to me, it has now become a risk for council, and that it needs to be taken seriously around our ongoing financial situation, particularly in light of moving towards the next financial year budget.
Councillor Witters?
Hear me better?
Yep, very good.
Yeah. Just to, again, as Councillor Gray has mentioned, there is some concerns about our finances at the moment, so we need to be very diligent in how we spend them and use them and look at them and everything else. So that's about it.
A speaker against? So Councillor Brian, you to speak against?
I've got a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, Councillor Muir, I'll deal with Councillor O'Brien first, please.
Okay. I suppose my query or my debate on this issue is around the clear instructions were given from the Office of Local Government that at the moment we're in an emergency footing. It's like a war footing. But the most important thing at the moment is the coronavirus, stimulating the economy, protecting people and getting through this. And they said very clear instructions that those who's talking about bottom lines through this are completely against the whole spirit of what we're going through. The federal government at the moment is spending more money than they've had since Second World War in order to save us. And people going on about bottom lines at the moment is absolutely against the spirit of the issue that we're facing at the moment. We've already been given advice about our before about where our budget was at, and it's been again and again exaggerated. For what purpose, I don't know. But at the moment, to be discussing this in this time is just, it's appalling. We should be doing every single thing we can to stimulate the economy, to protect our workers, and to protect this this community. All this sort of, bottom line and bean counting at the moment is just, it's a disgrace. I'm over it. Thank you.
Councillor, before I just ask the CEO to provide, wanted to say something. Councillor Moran?
Mr. Mayor, one of the items mentioned as a potential cost blowout in the financial report is the lift in the library. I've been critical for quite a period of time about council's project management and tendering processes. When the library was built, I complained or pointed out more precisely that I didn't feel the lift was compliant with Australian standards. And I was told that there was no issue with the lift. There was an independent inquiry done to look at my complaint. It was dismissed as well. And now it turns out the lift is non-compliant. We've had a non-compliant lift in a public building for at least 2 years. Can anyone tell me what has changed in that 2 years to make that lift now non-compliant?
Thank you, Councillor Murat. I'll ask the CEO to respond to a couple of issues.
Councillor Crystal, I can answer the last question first. The lift that was put in at the time of the build of the library, development of the library, was certified for residential purposes. We know that it should have been certified for commercial purposes, and we've been going through the certification process for the last period of months, and we are simply putting in the cost of a replacement lift in the event that we don't receive certification. If I could just make some comments, councillors, generally, let me assure you that all of the staff at Armidale Regional Council are concerned to support the community and businesses through this pandemic and through the difficulties that will ensue as a result. Our presentation of a financial report is neither exaggerated, certainly not exaggerated, but as the governing body, we considered you had a responsibility to understand our financial position as we move through the pandemic. It is not an attempt to scaremonger. It is neither an attempt to provide anything other than sound information for the governing body on which to make decisions. Unfortunately, unlike the federal government and state governments, our ability to borrow or undertake measures such as quantitative easing is not available to us. We only have the budget and the cash that we have. We have done everything we can, acknowledging that we will probably be running deficits in our budget for some time to come in order to support the community. But I feel compelled to commend and defend the staff against accusations of exaggeration or any other sinister motive other than to provide the governing body with the information it needs on which to make its decisions.
Mr. Mayor, I raise a point of order, please.
Councillor Tiley.
The point of order is that you're in contravention of clause 15.9 of the model code of meeting practice, which states inter alia that if a motion of dissent is passed, the chairperson must restore the business to the agenda and proceed with it in due course, as Councillor Marat was saying. So therefore, that would indicate that Councillor O'Brien is entitled to defend herself in relation to the allegation. Thank you.
Stand by, Councillor Tiley.
Thank you.
I might just make a little bit of a bit
muted
about.
I can't hear John. Can you unmute John, please?
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I just seeing we.
Sorry, say again. Okay, all right, just.
Well, if you want to mute you.
Okay, all right.
Want to hear John?
My suggestion that you go back to.
Sometimes we can.
You have to, but deal with this matter first, and then go back to that procedural motion and reinstate that.
Which is the?
Oh, the motion of dissent was passed. Therefore, you've got to give Deborah O'Brien a chance to defend herself against Diane.
Very good. Good ruling.
Good ruling, and thank you for changing the ruling and your advice.
So,
councillors, with the 14.4, which has been moved and seconded,
Oh,
Is
excuse
there a
me.
speaker against it?
Yes.
Councillor O'Connor.
All I want is to ask my questions about it as well. I don't want to speak against it, and I thank Kelly for putting so much effort into it. What I do want to ask is two things. There's a reference on page 45 of our notes that there's going to be some resort in due of the shortfall in the water supply fund. That those monies would be taken out of the. Well, sorry, the paragraph says council has budgeted for a negative cash impact in 1920 of 7.2 million, predominantly due to costs associated with the drought response. These costs will be funded from the Water Supply Reserve Fund. So my question is, and then I have another comment I want to make is, does this mean that our consolidated result that's shows a slight profit? I think it relies on going to the tune of 7.2 million into our water fund reserves. And the second point, I'll make the second point as well, seeing as I've got the microphone, and that is that I noticed that my colleagues in other councils around the state are now deeply involved in a lot of discussions about their 19-20-21 budget, which, as we all know, has to be ready by the end of this financial year. We're fast approaching that, and notwithstanding coronavirus, I just wonder why we haven't, why the governing body hasn't started working on our budget.
Thank you. I'll ask the CEO to respond to both your points. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors, I'll ask our CFO, Kelly Stidworthy, to answer Councillor O'Connor's first question. But as far as the preparation of the 2021 budget is concerned, the Office of Local Government has given us an extension of time in which to complete our operational plan and 2021 budget. Preparation has been is being undertaken by all of our operating divisions and the finance team, and we expect probably in the early part of May to be able to come to council with our baseline position together with options and proposals for the forthcoming financial year.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question?
CEO, just before we do, I'd like Kelly to come in and respond to Councillor O'Connor's question as well. So, Kelly, if you can.
First question.
Yeah, the first question from Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Scott McDonald may also contribute to the response on the first question.
So, Andrew Brown, is Kelly there?
Mr. Mayor or Dr. Mayor, sorry, she was talking. There might be an issue with her.
While she's coming, can I ask a question, please, Simon?
Yes, Councillor Bailey.
Here.
Can I ask Councillor O'Brien, could she explain to me where the exaggerations are in the budget? I'm intrigued to know. I've had a pretty good look at it, and I'd like to know line by line where she sees the exaggerations are.
So we're still waiting on Kelly.
Do you want me to answer that?
Brian?
Yeah.
Do you want me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had recently. Yeah. Sorry, Margaret.
Councillor O'Brien.
We had a recent.
I really wanted.
Councillor
I
O'Brien.
just wanted to say that Councillor O'Brien never said there were exaggerations. That was attributed to her.
Councillor O'Connor, this is a question being put to Councillor O'Brien. So, Councillor O'Brien.
The main thrust of my point was that this is not a time to be talking about budgets. However, to respond to Councillor Bailey's request, we had a recent workshop, financial workshop, from a person who was 40 years as a accountant with local government. He was an auditor with local government. He worked at Price Waterhouse, an expert, you might say. He went through in great detail our budget and talked about what the acceptable ratios were. We were very, very comfortable in all our ratios, all of them, at that time, which was only very recent. And the only thing that was unacceptable, really unacceptable, compared to other councils, was our backlog of work. So in fact, it very much seemed to me that what was happening is that we weren't spending the money we did have and the excess fat we did have on our services. So I stick by my point that not talking line by line, but our whole general attitude to the budget is that compared to other councils who are happy to stick to the ratios, we have a great deal of fat in our ratios, but not a great deal of enthusiasm in spending the money where it's needed. Thank you.
So, Kelly, are you available to answer the first point from Councillor O'Connor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
No, by the look of it, she's not there. So
We'll just take the question.
we'll take
Unmuted.
this. It's been moved by Councillor Graham Withers. Does any person wish to speak for it? Councillor Martin?
No, I'm just letting you know that Kelly's here now.
Okay. So Kelly, if you can respond, you may have to state your point again, Councillor O'Connor.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Councillor Murray. Yeah, my question was that on page 45 at the fourth paragraph, you talk about council's budget, and I thank you, Kelly, for such a comprehensive report as well. But my question was, council has budgeted for a negative cash impact in the 19-20 financial year of 7.2 million in the water fund, the water supply fund, due to associated costs with the drought response. These costs, you say, will be funded from the water supply reserve fund. So that's, am I right in assuming that that 7.2 million is going to be made up from the water fund reserves? And my question too is that a correct interpretation of your report? And secondly, does the consolidated financial position that you report at the end of your report, or you note at the end of your report, does that assume that we've depleted our water fund budget by 7.2 million reserves, or our water fund reserves by the 7.2 million? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
Kelly,
O'Connor.
you able to respond to that?
Mr. Mayor, if you can hear me this time around. Yes, that interpretation is correct. So the report outlines that drought costs have been significant in the 19-20 financial year. So we are predicting a drop in the water reserve fund. So that's the cash associated with the water reserve fund in the tune of $7.2 million for the full financial year. We are looking in the third quarter budget review for any capital deferrals or savings that can be picked up across the council. So including the water fund to try and help improve that position. But obviously that's fairly significant, and that'll drop the water reserve from memory from a balance of about $28 million, close to about 21 or 22 by the 30th of June. And obviously that then has an impact, a follow-on impact in terms of our forward forecast for capital replacement and renewal programs. Within the financial report, it also outlines the potential impacts on our unrestricted cash position. I know that wasn't part of the question, but if we're talking about overall cash position, the consolidated position was looking like we would have around a $5.6 million balance by the 30th of June. But I expect that our unrestricted cash position, our general fund cash position, will probably be slightly worse than what we're currently predicting. So it may be even higher than that, I should say. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. So, councillors, is there someone speaking against the motion? For? Otherwise, I'll put it to the vote.
I want to ask a question as well.
Councillor Robertson, I've asked this before, but I can't see it when you put your arm out to the side. You just disappear. So you have to put your hand close. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Robinson.
Well, I had a couple of questions in relation to this. One was that we've just heard that the Office of Local Government has allowed us an extension for the budget and operational plan. Can we have an exact date as to when it is now due? And also another question is that we had workshop a couple of weeks ago when we asked for the justification of the costs of senior staff changes, and we were told then the answer was in train. I'm just wondering how much longer we will have to wait for that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll ask the CEO to respond to both of those. Thank you. Okay, the CEO is going to take those points on notice and provide a response to you later. So I would like to put that. I don't think there's been anyone speaking against, so it's really not a right or reply situation. So I'll put that to the vote. So if Stacey can put up the vote, please.
That vote should now be visible to councillors.
Okay, Stacey, if you can cancel the vote in 5 seconds, please. That's unanimous decision. So thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Tiley. We'll move back to Councillor O'Brien's right reply for that procedural motion. So Councillor O'Brien.
I'll just interject here if I can, please, Dr. Mayor. I'll just withdraw my comment.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So I don't talk now?
Thank you, Councillor Gray. So moving back to item 14.7. Again, if this does not require any discussion or debate, I'd like to pass it by consensus. Is there anyone wishing this to be debated? Okay, passed by consensus. So moving on to 14.8, no, it's been passed. 17.1.
Yeah.
So Councillor Martin moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Gray. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Could I make an amendment to this, move an amendment for this motion, please? And that is that the decision is deferred on items G, H, I and J until a later date.
So Councillor Gray, you happy with that amendment? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I foreshadow an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Tyler.
That the minutes as presented be adopted with the exception of those 4 sections which are not adopted. And in plain speak, it's knocking out cars in the mall in case you're not up with it.
I'll second.
So now we've got to deal with the motion first.
Yeah,
so Councillor Martin used to speak to it.
I just thought that with the decision that there was to be made, it could be left to a later date so that we allow time for further consultation with the community and other councillors. Despite my being requested to resign by a fellow councillor over this issue, The proposal was brought to the Traffic Committee for a decision to be made on the traffic aspect of the proposal, and with a number of conditions it was approved. It is merely regulating a drop-off area that already exists, not putting a road through the mall.
So, Councillor Gray. Councillor Gray.
Oh, I must have been talking on my muted self. I concur with the Councillor Martin.
So we have the, just to clarify to everybody, the 17.1 has G to J being removed. So in your discussion, your debate for or against, remember those four have been deferred to a later date. So is there a speaker against the rest of the?
Mr. Mayor, are we voting? Are we voting to defer those items or not? We haven't. You're just trying to accept the motion without
Yes,
those voting.
that's part of because it's in.
We haven't voted to
the
defer.
amendment was.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I question the point of deferring them when there's been no. That when I was on council when the hotel development was done, the hotel development when it was done was looking at putting an outdoor eating area in the mall. I believe the DA was approved with all access to be from Cinders Lane, and the hotel owners had to supply adequate parking at the rear, which I don't know if that's been done. There's been numerous public consultations, at least 2, with regards to the mall and traffic through the mall. There's no pre-existing drop-off area in front of the Tats Hotel that I'm aware of. So what's the point of deferring it to go out to public consultation on something that would require the owners of the building to put in another DA on, because that DA does not give them the approval to drop off in front of the Tats Hotel.
So, Councillor Morat, the debate is around the fact that those 4 items have been
Simon,
deferred.
you're dropping out. We can't hear you. Simon, you're dropping in and out.
Unless the Councillor Tiley has foreshadowed a motion. So Councillor Tiley has foreshadowed a motion. So what we have in front of us now is that recommendation with those 4 items deferred. So Councillor Bryan, am I better now?
But we haven't voted for them to be deferred. I don't understand.
I speak against the motion.
You were about to, Councillor Bryan. This has been an amendment agreed to by both of the mover and seconder, and therefore it becomes the motion.
Okay.
So we,
Mr. Mayor,
if there's,
I speak against the motion.
Is there anyone wish? Councillor Tiley?
I speak against the motion. I support all that Councillor Morat has just said. I received something like 65 to 70 emails in the last 3 days since this became public knowledge, late Friday evening. The community is absolutely hostile towards anything that would take traffic back in the mall. In the Have Your Say, which we were sent yesterday, there were 159 items, 130 of which were against opening up traffic to the mall. We are the representatives of the people. We need to be listening to the people. I'm so disappointed that you and the Deputy Mayor on that committee supported this, but that's your prerogative. I urge the council to throw this out now. Thank you.
A speaker for the recommendation, the motion?
Yep, that's me, I think. Can you hear me?
So, Councillor Widders?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, considering that Councillor Tiley has foreshadowed a motion to remove these 4 items, what we're voting on at the moment is Councillor Martin's recommendation that it be deferred. So for those concerned that it'll just get deferred, I think you vote on this motion, then we can vote on Councillor Tiley's foreshadowed motion to remove this. But in regards to the community, I too note that I received a lot of emails and messages and a few other things in regards to putting traffic through the mall, but I also received the same amount of emails in regards to opening the road. So it's not a consensus that the community doesn't want it. There are the silent people who want something through there, but in regards to this motion, I think with this foreshadowed motion going, I think the debate just gets finished. We do this, pass this one, and then we can do Councillor Tiley's foreshadowed motion afterwards to remove them.
So, Councillor O'Connor, you wish to speak for the recommendation, against the recommendation?
Yes, I do. Look, with respect, Councillor Witters, we need to actually defeat this motion before we can get a chance to have a go at Councillor Tiley's motion. Councillor Tiley's foreshadowed motion is that we knock out this idea of reintroducing traffic to the mall now. And I think that is what we need to do. It's clear that I don't know if, well, I'm absolutely certain that there's just a torrent of objection to this and outrage from the community. And I'd like to point out that during the term of this council, this 3 years, which is now turning into 4 and a bit, there's been an undertaking given by staff of council that we wouldn't revisit this question. Now it's been brought up through the traffic committee, and it's just absolutely stirred up an ant's nest of hostility, not just to the idea of reintroducing traffic into the mall, but also to this council. It's actually been a public relations catastrophe for us. And I just don't think we can possibly bear to waste any more time or money on, you know, going out for more consultation. The proportion of objection to this compared to the proportion of people who are willing to entertain putting a road through the mall is probably about 90 to 10% or something. And look, the people that want to have a road through the mall have got a right to their opinion, but unfortunately, I just want to say, unfortunately, given that we've made undertakings in this term of our council, this is a matter that really cannot be revisited until we have an election next year and there is a new council in place with a new mandate from the community. So I urge all councillors now to reject this amended motion in its current form, which defers these contestable sections, H to J or G to J. We must vote this down and then support Councillor Tiley's foreshadowed motion. Thank you.
So, a speaker for the motion?
I've got a question.
Councillor Gillespie.
I'm a bit flabbergasted to think, after what we all went through with which was one of the first things when we all put our hands up to get on the council, was the mall thing, and it came up to us and we were all fairly stunned the way that it happened. Have we all got that short of memory that everyone had forgotten about that? I can understand probably Susan not doing her homework on the situation of what the mall is, but for crying out loud, Simon, you and Libby had some idea.
Councillor Gillespie, we're looking for a speaker for this. So is there a speaker for?
And I said I am going to ask you a question.
You're making a statement, Councillor.
No, I'm asking you a question of what was your, or you and Libby both, the mayor and deputy mayor. What was why did you let this get up? That's my question. Why did you let it get up?
A point of order, Mr. Mayor. Were you at the traffic committee meeting? Mr. Mayor, were you at the traffic committee meeting?
No, Councillor Bailey.
So you weren't at the meeting. And you had no control over the agenda.
This is a committee that provides a recommendation, like all other committees, to council. I have access to all bar one committee if I choose. I did not attend that meeting. I've not attended any of the traffic committees. So let's move on. Is there a speaker for the motion? If not, I'll put the right reply to Councillor.
I'd like to ask a question as well, if that's okay with some people.
Councillor Robinson?
And that question really is just on the money that we've spent on the mall vibrancy plan, because in the Stronger Communities Fund, we had $220,000 for the mall vibrancy plan, and we now don't have enough money to even fund the full stage. So I'm just wondering how much of the $220,000 was spent on King and Campbell plans, and what else is we spent the money on? Because I think it's important that we know that as part of knowing how to work through the issues of the mall.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. We'll take that on notice. So if there's no further debate, I'll have Councillor Martin's right of reply.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just to clarify, this was a proposal that was brought to a committee. We don't get to pick and choose what we will and will not vote on. It was voted unanimously, but that included one person from council. The rest were from our local community. Thanks, Councillor Tiley, for your update on the number of fors and against you had, but 159 people, in my opinion, doesn't represent our community. And my point that I'm trying to make on this is further discussion is required.
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. So if Stacey can bring up the vote, please.
Muted.
Just to clear what we're voting on, just in case because I'm having a bit of trouble with my small little name. We are voting to go against taking it to another time. Is that correct?
Councillor Gillespie, what is in front of you is 17.1, which has a series of recommendations with G to J removed. Councillor Tiley has already foreshadowed a motion to look at those four.
Well, with respect, Mr. Mayor, that is not quite an accurate description. It is not. Those are removed as a block to be deferred for further consideration. The fundamental difference, if we vote this down, we then can go to Councillor Tiley's foreshadowed motion, which is to vote down, and absolutely say no today to this proposal.
Councillor,
proposal.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Right. Voting, close the vote in 5 seconds. Vote please, Stacey.
Dr. Mayor, I'm not sure if this was a choice made by the councillor. However, one of the councillors was not present in the meeting when that vote was taken. Therefore, there are only 10 votes that will be counted. Councillor Murat was not visible. His webcam showed paused during that time. Therefore, his vote in this particular motion can't be counted.
Unmuted.
So, Dr. Mayor, there was one councillor not present in the meeting for that vote. I'm not sure if that was a deliberate thing or something that's happened with the technology. However, their webcam was paused during that time. Therefore, we can't count their vote. So there are only 10 councillors who voted in that vote, only 10 can be recorded, with Councillor Murat's vote not being able to be recorded. So it's only 10.
Mr. Mayor, my webcam dropped out then for a period of time. I did vote on it, and it's recorded on the thing that goes back to the officers. I voted against it.
Yeah, the issue, Councillor Murat, is that the guidelines or the legislation require audio-visual meeting for all votes, etc. So it's a decision.
So you mean to say that if my webcam or something drops out through no fault of my own during a vote, it's not recorded?
Unfortunately, that's the interpretation from in relation to the legislation. I don't think in this case it made a difference in relation to the vote, but I'm not sure. It's a decision for the chair to make a ruling on.
Well, I move that this vote be recommitted so that we can, all 11 of us can vote.
I go for that as well.
Councillors, let us go through do a revote now that Councillor Murat is visible. So if you can revote, please. If Stacey can set that up.
Yeah, we're just in the process of resetting the vote now. That vote should now be re-available for councillors to vote again.
Thank you, Andrew. And if councillors, we've closed the vote in 5 seconds.
Sorry, we're just having a little bit of an issue with the info council system. It doesn't like multiple divisions, so we're just having to set it up. We won't be too long.
Unmuted.
So we're just having an issue with the info council system. It doesn't like there to be 2 divisions, so we're just having to re-type it in manually. We won't be long.
Okay, councillors, the motion's lost. So Councillor Tyler, your foreshadowed motion. Councillor Tyler, you just have to turn your mic on.
Yeah, sorry about that. I move the motion on the screen, which is that the minutes as presented be adopted with the exception of G through to J, which are not adopted.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor O'Connor. Yes. So Councillor Tyler?
I think enough's probably been said, Mr. Mayor. I think it's very clear what the community doesn't want. And I think as representatives of the people, we're duty bound to respond to what is overwhelmingly against traffic in the mall. In deference to Councillor Widders, I did not get one email in favour of putting cars back through the mall. So he must have a different set of constituents to me. But look, it's very, very clear that we've already determined this early in the life of this council, and I think that it's clear that the way people just voted, that we need to get this off the table and give some people some respite from this confounded issue. Thank you very much.
So, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor O'Connor, turn your mic on.
Could I ask Councillor Gallatley to speak for me as a seconder?
You certainly can. Thank you very much, if that's okay.
Councillor Gallatley. So, Councillor Gallatley.
Yes. I am speaking here. Is that all right?
You're speaking for the foreshadowed motion.
That is exactly right. That is exactly what I'm speaking for. I just think the people have pretty well spoken here. Ian really brought it in, but I can't see how it could have been any other way. What was actually the motive for bringing this up? Was it overlooked and it was a bit of a mistake, or was it something that was meant to be put up? I'm still flabbergasted that you could be so out of touch with the residents and the community to actually put this up. So that is why I'm speaking to get rid of it, mate. It's simple as that.
Okay, Speaker 4. Can you please turn your microphones off unless you are talking, please? A Speaker for the, against the foreshadowed motion?
Yeah, I'm going to speak here. I'm probably going to support this motion at any rate, but just a couple of things. In regards to Councillor Tyler's comment that, yes, well, as someone who lives in this town, I probably do see more different constituents than what he would. So, as I said again, I'm going to probably vote for this proposal. I'm a big fan of a road through them all, but this proposal I'm not a big fan of. But it's not, I'm only one person. So I do, as I said, I had just as many people say put a road through than what there was put a road against. But as I said, maybe that's because I live here and I see more people. And in regards to this coming through a committee, as Councillor Martin said, our committees have committee members on there. And whether we're the chair of the committee or whether we just sit on the committee, if the committee passes it, then it's not the chair's responsibility or the chair's fault that the committee passed a motion to then come to council. It's the committee as a whole passes that motion. So to try and put blame on one person or the other or the chair or whoever's on those committees, I think is irresponsible. But I'm going to vote for it anyway.
So anyone wants to speak for the motion? Okay, Councillor Tyler, you want right to reply? Oh, sorry, Councillor Martin. Sorry, I missed you. Councillor Martin?
I had mine
Sorry,
up too.
Is that me talking? Sorry. I just, I'm not speaking for or against. I just wanted it noted if these minutes get passed to go through that the special events that are mentioned in the minutes, I'm not sure what items they are because I haven't looked them all up, but E's definitely one of them won't be going ahead due to the virus.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor O'Brien?
I'm speaking for the motion.
Yes.
I think my concern is even not so much even about the road. That's up to the community, and I think the community have spoken. My concern was how it got on the agenda, and I'm very concerned that the mayor has openly admitted that it's been there's only one business behind it. Also, questions were unanswered around who was paying for the bollards, who was paying for the marking, who was paying for the signage. I think there's some questions about the whole process of this that needs to, I'm very concerned about it. I actually think how this happened should be probably investigated. It's more than a road for me. I'm concerned that a small, very small group of people, and perhaps only one business, can have so much influence on council proposals. That's my big concern, road or not, that is my big concern. Who paid, who said they would pay for those extra expenses that has allowed council to be off the hook in terms of that expenditure. I mean, questions should be asked around this, and I'm quite disturbed. Thank you.
Just get the CEO to clarify your point, Councillor O'Brien. Yep.
Councillors, I feel compelled to respond in part to Councillor O'Brien's comments because she implies wrongdoing or potentially, the corruption. Let me be very clear. Matters that go before the Traffic Committee, ranging from closure of roads, drop-off zones, loading zones requests, come from individual organisations and businesses. Oftentimes they are requested to pay for the cost of either the closing of the road or the establishment of a loading zone. This was a circumstance that was no different from any other request from any other individual, business or community group.
CEO. Okay, Councillor, is there anyone else wish to speak against the motion? Otherwise, Councillor O'Connor used to speak against the foreshadowed motion.
No, I have a question. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor O'Connor.
In the light of the CEO's response, could she please identify who did offer to pay for the bollards, and if this is a normal thing, can she please identify who was the proposed donor of these permanent fixtures that were going to facilitate this items G to J?
CEO.
Councillors, no one offered to pay. The resolution of the endorsement of the Traffic Committee was to seek those costs from the party that sought the drop-off zone.
Okay.
Could I just make a comment, please?
Yes.
I did not accuse anyone of corruption. I said questions must be answered. So this can be clarified for the community, because a lot of the community are very concerned about this. I didn't accuse anyone of corruption. I merely said those questions should be answered because people don't know. So to clarify that point.
Right. So is there a speaker against the motion? Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. This is a very emotive issue, and I, for one, am not for a road in itself at this point in time going through the mall. However, I think there's been some logic lost in this debate, in that we already have businesses in the mall that have drop-off zones. We already have that. We are looking at stimulating businesses through such a hard time after drought, during drought, after fires, and we now have coronavirus. These businesses do need support. To ask for safety and consideration for pedestrians as well as business owners to have bollards or line markings or whatever, so drop-off points for businesses, not just one, but for numerous businesses within the mall, and ensure community safety. I think that logic has been ignored in this. We're not talking about a road. We're talking about making the place, the mall, safer for drop-off points that businesses use. And whoever this business is, they're just not the only ones that would use this. And it is currently being used.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor Robinson.
Again, I'm really just wanting to ask a question. And that really is, why was all this put to us without any plans or without any drawings or something, and just leaving us into the dark about what was happening? I mean, I think there might have been a bit less of an outroar if we actually seen what was happening, seen more plans rather than just a recommendation like that. And so I'd quite like to ask the representative on the traffic committee, did they see any plans? Did they have any ideas about the size of the turning circle, where these drop-off points would be? Because something like that would have maybe made it a lot easier to understand what was going on. And I think that would be something that maybe we should think of in future.
So, Councillor Martin, would you like to respond? Your choice.
Yeah, no, I'm not making a comment now.
Okay. Councillors, I think we've debated this sufficient. Councillor Tyler, your right to reply. Councillor Tyler, your microphone, please.
It's normally the opposite, isn't it? Leave them on. Sorry about that. I commenced by ignoring Councillor Witter's fairly cheap shot about where one lives affects how one is lobbied or how much one is lobbied. I think that's entirely irrelevant. What Councillor Gray says, we know to be existing businesses drop-off zone is continuing. That's very different from the committee proposal. I applaud Councillor O'Brien's courage in identifying that central issue out there in the community. The community has in many emails speculated on how and why this has come about, with many suggesting that the matter should be taken to ICAC. That's not me speaking, that's the community speaking. I am confounded by the apparent subterfuge of putting this matter in the traffic committee minutes without, as Councillor Robinson asked, without a report or further detail for the councils to consider. So it was sort of kept under wraps. I conclude by saying that this matter will go hard come election time on those of us who continue to promote traffic through the mall. I urge the council to unanimously reject that proposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tyler. I'll put that to the vote. So and I presume, Andrew Brown, this is going to be a procedural motion number 5 or 6, is it?
Yeah, procedural motion number 6. Yeah, that vote's open now for councillor.
Yep, thank you. So
there's a lot of businesses that would have, oh, sorry.
We'll close the vote in 5 seconds.
A lot of businesses that would have got benefit out of from 5 till 8:30 in the morning, that's for sure, Diane.
Muted. Unmuted.
Councillor Gillespie, appreciate if you do not make comments. The decision is up to the councillors. Further comments are not sought.
I apologise for that.
Please keep your mic switched off if you're not speaking. So the results are in. The foreshadowed motion has been carried. So, councillors, I think the rest up to there's been 2 ones that have been deferred, and the rest of the information which have been passed. So we moved on to item 18, matters of urgent nature. Item 19, which is questions on notice, and there's responses have already been given to you. So we're now ready to move into the closed session, but before I do that, 2 things. 2 things. One is I would like to formally close the extraordinary meeting in March that we had, formally close that. And secondly, I'd like to take a break for 10 minutes to allow people to have a toilet break. So if we can reconvene at 10 to 12.
We haven't done everything on the business paper, as like the rescission motion on. Are you aware of that?
Now that was deferred, if you remember, from Councillor Bailey.
I wanted to ask a question in relation to the questions of notice, and I've been waiting.
No, Councillor Robinson, we've you've got responses to that, which we deal with that in the same method we deal with it all the time. So let's have a 10-minute break. Can I have a movement and a seconder for that, please?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm not.
I think Libby wanted something.
I don't. I'm
Councillor
not clear what you're doing.
Bailey.
I know you need to go to the loo, but in relation to closing, did you say you were going to close an extraordinary meeting?
Yes, I have.
Well, no, you
Yep.
can't. You cannot do that. If there's no notice of it, on what extraordinary meeting are you talking about?
The 12th of March, Councillor O'Connor.
Absolutely not. I move a motion of dissent from that rule. It's not even a ruling. It's just something that's come down from your lips. It's just absolutely, I move a motion of dissent against that.
So is there a second for your procedure motion? So, Councillor, we have a difficulty. Councillor Gray has taken the toilet break. So can we, since I called a toilet break a couple of minutes ago, can we bring this up after the toilet break, Councillor O'Connor?
As long as we do, yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll reconvene at 10:02.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
have someone move and second that we move into the closed session, please? Okay, Councillor Gray, Councillor Tiley. second that all those motions passed in the closed session be adopted in open session? Councillor Gray, Councillor Martin. Councillors, I did skip over the supplementary attachment, supplementary papers. So have you all got that, which is item 17.8, the committee reports, and 17.9? Has everyone got those?
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Yeah, just to clarify, that was because we had to record the closed session separately, differently to how we recorded the rest of the session. So it is still being recorded. It's just not the same manner as the closed session.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. So again, I will do the same as before, which is if it doesn't require discussion. So 17.8 is both of them to decision. So unless someone, so Councillor O'Connor, turn your mic on, Councillor O'Connor.
I'm trying to. Hang on. Yeah, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm not comfortable about the Environmental Committee's minutes. They're incomplete, and I want to talk to that. Thank you.
Okay, so that is 17.9. So 17.8, Councillor Murat, I can't. Is that a finger you had up? Councillor Murat, you're muted.
No, I'm just watching. Propping my head up.
Okay. So 17.8. If that's the case, then we'll pass it by consensus. So 17.9, Councillor O'Connor, you wish to discuss that? So can I have a move and a seconder, please? Councillor Bailey moved. Councillor O'Brien seconded. So Councillor Bailey.
I'll reserve my right to speak.
Councillor O'Brien. Councillor O'Brien, you've got to turn your mic on, please.
I won't be speaking.
Is this person who wishes to speak against the motion? If not, I'll put it.
Excuse me.
So Councillor O'Connor, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was at this meeting and basically, look, I really want to defer to the chair, who's Councillor Robinson, but as far as I'm concerned, it's not complete. Would that be right?
Councillor O'Connor. Councillor O'Connor, you're not a member of that committee, so Councillor Robinson, if she thought there's something wrong, should have raised it. So
well, I'm asking her if she's got a concern, that's all, because I have a concern. I was there and it's not complete. That's all.
Yes, I definitely have a concern, but I'm not sure what to do about it. And some of the other things, some of the other important recommendations, we should probably leave it till the 13th of May meeting, I suppose.
So would you like to defer item 17.9?
No, I'd like to vote it, but also maybe have a section D that other concerns in relation to this meeting are deferred to the May 13th extraordinary meeting.
I'm happy to second that.
Yes. Councillor, that is an amendment, but first I'll see whether Councillor Bailey and Councillor O'Brien are happy with that amendment. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, yes.
Councillor O'Brien? Okay. So just to clarify, that's going to be a section D.
Can I ask a question around these minutes? I noticed that both Councillor Robinson, who is the chair, I think, of this committee, and Councillor O'Connor, who I think is what are they called? An observer out there. But I see Councillor Gray is also on there. Councillor Gray, are you able to enlighten us on what some of the concerns may be in regards to this meetings, if any, please?
With great respect, Councillor Brad. Sorry, I was going to call you Ritters. I'm not quite sure that you can just jump in and cut across the mayor like this. Your question should go through the mayor. And
I'm
Anyway.
taking it through the mayor. So,
just following
Councillor
your-
Gray, would you like to comment?
Am I allowed to comment? Is that all right?
Yes, if you'd like to comment.
Look, I have some concerns around the minutes, particularly when it says that their members are present. Councillor O'Connor and I think there was another one that were observers. They're actually not committee members. There's that just to be noted. But the confusion came when there was 2 agendas put forward for the committee, and the priority was around holding the meeting on Monday so that they could get this report in, was to get the Climate Emergency Working Group report, the draft report, up to this council meeting as per the motion around this working group, and I can't remember exactly when. That was to provide a report at the April meeting. So that was the priority of this. There were, as it says, staff withdrew from the meeting after this, the official agenda, and then it went on to the other agenda that was set by the chair but not worked through with staff to be formally put through as council documentation. Does that explain? So that's why I would assume that any of the minutes that were taken from that other section have not had time to be recorded properly or something like that. So I'm not sure from a start.
I believe they have been recorded properly and agreed by everybody. But it's just a question now about what we do about the question, because they were in the official agenda, even though they were on the agenda sent out by council staff. So there was no obvious reason why we shouldn't have been allowed to discuss them, as we did in fact discuss them.
There was no staff present to record the minutes due process, good governance, etc. And so the minutes that were taken out apart from separate from staff, I am assuming still needs to go through due process within council, and I'm happy to be wrong here, before being presented to council. And that was made clear at the meeting.
So you've actually received a copy of those minutes, and I'm therefore asking you to determine if they are a true record of what was said. Thank you.
So, councillors, let's just, this is a question and answer type procedure we're going through now. So you've got up on the screen the 4 points there, even though we've got 2 Bs, to be or not to be. So unless there's someone that wishes to speak against this,
Dr. Mayor, could we have Councillor Robinson just confirm D is what she is after for the amendment?
Yes, I'll confirm that.
Thank you.
Now, I haven't heard anyone speaking against the motion, so I'll put that. So if Stacey can set up a new poll, please.
Yeah, that's ready for councillors now.
Okay, councillors, 5 seconds and we'll close the poll.
And while you're doing that, can I have a procedural motion in relation to the questions of notice, on notice?
Hang on, what have we got a result for that, Andrew? This all disappeared on me. We're too far. So 17 point, we haven't actually formally got a
Yes, they're
result.
on
So
the
the
screen
results
now.
are, yep, unanimous results. So I declare the motion passed. So Councillor Robertson.
Yeah, I'd like a procedural motion that a question arising from one of the questions on notice is answered.
We can take that on notice, Councillor Robinson. Do you want to?
Well, I can take it on notice if you like. And that,
yep.
And that question on notice is that one of the answers to my question on notice 6 was ask the mayor. And therefore, the motion was simply that the mayor answers the question which was referred to him.
Okay, well, we'll give you a response. Okay, councillors, thank you very much for your participation in this meeting. It's been quite interesting. I know there's cups of coffee there. I don't know whether there's stuff inside it. Councillor Martin?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to hold everyone up, but just before we close, is it okay if I just say, extend a vote of thanks to our staff, our CEO and yourself for all the hard work that you've put in to enable today's meeting to go ahead, because I know it was fairly technologically difficult for a while there. So you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I also
on
ask
behalf of myself and the staff, I do thank you
another
for that.
question on notice, which was the answer to my question on notice in the February meeting hasn't yet been answered. You mind that we still need an answer to that question on notice?
Okay, we'll look into that. Okay, councillors, I appreciate your participation, and I'd like to close this meeting and also extraordinary meeting from the 12th of March. So thank you for attending.